My reckless younger brother Julian ran off with his lover the night before his arranged engagement. So, I, Adrian Hale, the elder son of the Hale family, was forced to take his place. To ruin the whole arrangement, I deliberately showed up late to the meeting, and instead of offering an apology, I slid straight onto my supposed affiance's lap, my voice dripping with false sweetness. "Sorry, darling, I'm late." To my surprise, the man didn't immediately explode. Sebastian Cross, heir to the Cross family, the powerful dynasty with deep ties to the military and government, and a young strategist already feared in political circles, only stiffened. I plucked up the cup of black coffee he had just sipped from and took a careless drink. "Ah, so bitter," I murmured, tilting my head toward his perfectly shaped lips. How can someone with such handsome lips enjoy something that tastes so awful? His dark eyes flickered with barely concealed distaste. I'd done my research. Sebastian Cross hated tardiness, loathed physical contact, and was infamous for his near-obsessive sense of cleanliness. Every move I made was designed to strike directly at his nerves, and it worked. His throat tightened as he shoved me off his lap, not too roughly, but without the slightest warmth. "You're late. I have another meeting. This engagement is over." I dropped my lashes, feigning hurt. "Fine. Then we'll see each other next time." Of course, I had no intention of a next time. My name wasn't Julian at all. It was Adrian. I was just a stand-in, forced here because my foolish brother had run off. The night before, my parents had begged and threatened me in equal measure. "Adrian, you and Julian look so alike. Just meet Sebastian for us. If you don't, you'll ruin the family." So I went, but no one had said I couldn't sabotage it. I thought the farce would end there, but the very next day, Sebastian Cross sent over a dowry worth $10 million and 200 bodyguards to the Hale estate. My parents were overjoyed. I was horrified. Me, an alpha, being courted by another alpha. If word got out, I'd never live it down. I made up my mind to confront him, to tell him I wasn't Julian at all. But before I could even step out, my mother stopped me with pleading eyes. "Adrian, the family business is under threat. The council is watching your father's position. We need the Cross family's support. Please, just keep playing along until we find Julian." This time, I refused. "This charade will be exposed, sooner or later." Her fingers tightened around mine. "We'll bring your brother back before the engagement. Just please, hold on a little longer." Before I could argue further, the butler rushed in breathlessly. "Mr. Cross has arrived." I hadn't gone to Sebastian to settle things. Instead, he had come to me. Sebastian Cross didn't so much enter a room as commanded. He stood in our entryway like he owned it, immaculate in a tailored suit that emphasized his broad shoulders. His dark hair was swept back, revealing those piercing eyes that seemed to catalog every detail. "Julian," he greeted, though his gaze lingered on my face, a beat too long. I tensed, wondering if he could see through my deception. Julian and I may have shared the same features, but my brother exuded carefree charm, while Mother had always said I carried a certain coldness. "Sebastian," I replied with deliberate informality. "What a surprise. Did you miss me already?" The corners of his mouth tightened. "I wanted to speak with your parents about the engagement terms." My father materialized beside me, all eager smiles. "Mr. Cross, what an honor. Please, come into the study." As they disappeared down the hallway, my mother squeezed my arm. "Be civil, Adrian, for the family." I scoffed. "He knows I'm not Julian." "He knows nothing of the sort," she hissed. "And you'll make sure it stays that way." An hour later, I was summoned to the study. Sebastian stood by the window, his silhouette sharp against the afternoon light. My parents wore identical expressions of barely contained excitement. "Julian," my father said, "Mr. Cross has generously offered to move forward with the engagement immediately. The ceremony will take place in 3 weeks." The floor seemed to tilt beneath me. 3 weeks, that is. "Perfect," Sebastian interrupted, turning to face me. "Unless you have objections. His eyes challenged me, daring me to reveal myself as an imposter. I couldn't understand his game. Was he deliberately trapping me? Of course not, I replied through gritted teeth, though I hoped we might have more time to get acquainted. We'll have plenty of time for that, Sebastian said, approaching me with measured steps. Starting tomorrow. I'll pick you up at 7. For what? I blurted. Dinner, he replied simply, as fiancés do. He extended his hand, and I reluctantly took it. His grip was firm, warm, and when he pressed his lips to my knuckles, an unexpected heat rushed through me. Until tomorrow, then. After he left, I rounded on my parents. 3 weeks. Are you insane? We had no choice, my father said. The cross-family support is conditional on the marriage. And Julian, my mother looked away. We're still searching for him. And when you don't find him, what then? I demanded. No one answered. They didn't need to. I already knew I was the sacrifice. That night, I called Marcus, the only person who knew the truth. You're actually going through with this? He asked, incredulous. For now, I muttered, pacing my bedroom. Until Julian is found. And if he isn't, you'll marry Sebastian Cross. Marcus's tone was laced with disbelief. The Sebastian Cross, who once had a cadet court, marshaled for sneezing in his vicinity? That is an exaggeration. Not by much. Marcus paused. I don't understand why he'd choose Julian anyway. Your brother's reputation isn't exactly pristine. I frowned. What do you mean? Nothing specific. Just, Sebastian Cross seems like the type who'd want someone more, I don't know, disciplined. His words gnawed at me as I prepared for bed. Why would Sebastian want Julian? My brother was charming but unreliable. Qualities Sebastian would surely despise. Nothing about this arrangement made sense. As I drifted off to sleep, a memory surfaced. A summer day years ago, a charity event at the Cross Estate. A quiet boy with serious eyes, working meticulously on a model ship. Me, watching from the doorway, curious about his focus. Had that been Sebastian? I couldn't remember speaking to him, only observing from afar. By morning, the memory had faded, replaced by dread for the evening ahead. Sebastian arrived precisely at 7, driving himself in a sleek black car. No driver, no entourage, just him. I dressed carefully, choosing clothes Julian would never wear, a high-necked sweater, dark jeans, minimalist accessories. If Sebastian truly sought my brother, I'd make the differences impossible to ignore. You look. Sebastian paused as I slid into the passenger seat, his eyes lingering on the tear mole at the corner of my eye. Different. Different good or different bad, I challenged. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. Just different. The restaurant was exclusive, tucked away on the top floor of a building overlooking the city. Sebastian led me through with the quiet confidence of someone accustomed to doors opening for him. Do you bring all your arranged fiancés here? I asked, once we were seated. You're my first, he replied, not rising to the bait. Lucky me, I studied the menu, determined to order the most expensive items. You know, Sebastian said after a moment, most people would be honored to marry into the Cross family. I set down my menu. I'm not most people, clearly. His dark eyes assessed me. You've gone to considerable lengths to sabotage this arrangement. My heart stuttered. I don't know what you mean. The coffee incident, your deliberate tardiness, this performance you're putting on. He leaned forward slightly. It won't work. And why is that? Because I've chosen you. Something in his tone, the absolute certainty, made my skin prickle. You don't even know me. I know enough. Sebastian signaled for wine. Your family needs this alliance. Mine wants it. The only variable is you, and if I refuse, you won't. His confidence was infuriating. Not once you understand what is at stake, for my family or for yours. Sebastian's expression hardened. Both, there are threats you're unaware of. Before I could press him, our server arrived with wine. Sebastian ordered for both of us with practiced ease. You could at least pretend to consult me, I said after the server left. Would you prefer something else? No, but that is not the point. Then what is the point, Julian? He asked, emphasizing the name. The direct challenge hung between us. I could reveal myself now, end the charade, but something in his steady gaze made me hesitate. He was testing me, but why? The point is respect, I said finally. If we're to be married, I won't be treated like a possession. Sebastian nodded slowly. Fair enough. He raised his glass. To mutual respect, then. I reluctantly clinked my glass against his. The rest of dinner passed in a strange dance of veiled questions and careful answers. Sebastian was intelligent, articulate, and maddeningly composed. Not once did he reveal why he had chosen Julian, or me, for this arrangement. As we left the restaurant, Sebastian placed his hand at the small of my back. The touch was light but deliberate, sending an unwelcome warmth up my spine. You don't have to pretend when we're alone, I said. Pretend what? That you find me attractive, that this is anything but a business arrangement. Sebastian stopped walking, turning to face me. What makes you think I'm pretending? His gaze dropped to my lips, and for a heart-stopping moment, I thought he might kiss me. Instead, he stepped back. I'll take you home now. The drive back was silent, heavy with unspoken tensions. When we arrived at the Hale estate, Sebastian walked me to the door. Thank you for dinner, I said stiffly. Adrian, he said quietly. My blood froze. What did you call me? Sebastian's expression remained unreadable. Good night. I'll see you tomorrow. He turned and walked away, leaving me paralyzed on the doorstep. He knew. He had always known. He knows I'm not Julian, I told Marcus the next morning, pacing the length of his apartment. He called me Adrian. Marcus whistled low. So the jig is up. What now? I don't know. He still wants to go through with the engagement. That makes no sense. Marcus frowned. Unless what? Unless it was never Julian he wanted in the first place. I stopped pacing. That is ridiculous. Why would he agree to marry Julian if he wanted someone else? Marcus shrugged. Maybe the someone else was unavailable, or maybe the name on the contract doesn't matter as much as the family connection. His words struck an uncomfortable chord. Was I simply a Hale to Sebastian, a means to an alliance? You should confront him, Marcus said. Directly, no more games. Fine. I grabbed my jacket. I'll go to his office now. Marcus raised an eyebrow. You know where his office is? I hesitated. I looked it up for reconnaissance. Right, Marcus's tone was skeptical. Reconnaissance. Sebastian's office was in the heart of the city, a sleek tower of glass and steel. The receptionist recognized me immediately. Mr. Hale, Mr. Cross is expecting you. Of course he was. Sebastian's office occupied the top floor, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of the city. He stood when I entered, setting aside a stack of papers. Adrian, he greeted, making no pretense this time. I was wondering when you'd come. You knew from the beginning, I accused. You knew I wasn't Julian. Sebastian gestured for me to sit. Yes. Why continue the charade? Why not expose me? Because the arrangement was never about Julian. Sebastian's gaze was steady. It was always about you. I laughed bitterly. That is absurd. My parents arranged for Julian to marry you. Your parents arranged for a Hale to marry a Cross, Sebastian corrected. I specified which Hale. My mind raced. You're lying. If that were true, why not approach me directly? Why this elaborate game? Sebastian's expression softened slightly. Would you have agreed? No. Exactly, he leaned back in his chair. Besides, your father was convinced Julian would be more amenable to the arrangement. Because Julian is an Omega, I said flatly. Because Julian is compliant, Sebastian countered. Or so your father believed. I processed this information slowly, so when Julian ran away, it was convenient, Sebastian finished. It brought you to me. I'm not a prize to be won, I snapped. No, Sebastian agreed. You're far more complicated than that. Something in his tone made me uneasy. Why me? We've barely interacted before this. Sebastian was silent for a moment. Do you remember the summer you turned 16? The charity event at our estate? The memory from my dreams surfaced again, vaguely. You found me in the library. I was working on a model ship. That was you. The quiet boy with the intense focus. Sebastian nodded. You sat with me for hours. You were the only person who didn't try to drag me to the party. You just watched, asked questions about the ship. I remembered now, the way his hands had moved with precision, the serious set of his mouth softening when I'd asked about the tiny details. That was almost 8 years ago, I said. Yes, Sebastian's gaze never wavered. I've been watching you ever since. The confession should have disturbed me. Instead, it sparked something, curiosity perhaps, or recognition. I need time, I said finally. This is a lot to process. Sebastian inclined his head. Take all the time you need. The engagement stands. As I rose to leave, he added, Adrian, I paused at the door. I'm not playing a game, remember that. His words followed me all the way home. The next week passed in a blur of engagement preparations. My parents, thrilled that Sebastian still wanted to proceed, despite knowing the truth, threw themselves into planning with renewed vigor. Sebastian called daily, sent gifts that showed surprising attention to my tastes, first editions of books I'd mentioned in passing, a vintage telescope similar to one I'd admired in a museum. Each gift came with a handwritten note, never demanding, simply present. He is courting you properly, Marcus observed, examining the telescope. You have to admit, it is romantic. It is calculated, I corrected, though without conviction. Have you considered that maybe, just maybe, he genuinely likes you? I scoffed. He doesn't know me, doesn't he? He has been watching you for years, apparently. That is called stalking. Marcus shrugged. Call it what you want, but I've seen how you look at his gifts. You're not as immune as you pretend to be. I didn't dignify that with a response. 3 days before the engagement party, Sebastian invited me to his home, not the Cross family estate, but his personal apartment, a penthouse overlooking the park. I want you to see where we'll live, he explained over the phone. Presumptuous of you, I replied. I could hear his smile. 7 o'clock. Dress casually. The penthouse was nothing like I expected. Instead of cold minimalism, it was warm, filled with books and art. One wall was dedicated entirely to model ships, meticulously crafted. You've been busy, I said, examining them. It calms me. Sebastian handed me a glass of wine, working with my hands. Something about the admission, so personal, so at odds with his public persona, touched me. This place is different than I imagined, I admitted. Different good or different bad. He echoed my earlier question, just different. Sebastian smiled, the first genuine smile I'd seen from him. It transformed his face, softening the hard lines, reaching his eyes. I have something to show you, he said, leading me to a room at the back of the apartment. It was a study, lined with books. On the desk sat a half-finished model of what appeared to be an ancient Greek ship. The Argo, Sebastian explained, from the myth of Jason. I approached, admiring the intricate details. It is beautiful. I thought perhaps we could finish it together. The suggestion was so unexpected, so vulnerable, that I couldn't immediately respond. Sebastian watched me, uncertainty flickering in his usually confident gaze. I'd like that, I said finally. Relief crossed his features. Good. We spent the evening working on the model, our conversation flowing easily for the first time. Sebastian was different here, in his space, less guarded, more authentic. I found myself laughing at his dry observations, intrigued by his insights. Why the military? I asked as we worked. With your background, you could have done anything. Sebastian considered the question. I needed discipline, structure. After my mother died, I was angry. The military gave me purpose. I'm sorry about your mother, I said softly. It was a long time ago. His hands never paused in their work. What about you? Why art history? I was surprised he knew my major. It wasn't my parents' choice, if that is what you're asking. It wasn't. I sighed. I like the stories behind things. The way art preserves moments, emotions. It is honest in a way people rarely are. Sebastian nodded, understanding without needing further explanation. As the evening progressed, The space between us gradually diminished. Our fingers brushed as we passed tiny pieces back and forth. Each contact sent a current through me that became increasingly difficult to ignore. When it was time to leave, Sebastian walked me to the door. We stood close, the air between us charged with something I wasn't ready to name. "Thank you for coming," he said, his voice lower than usual. "Thank you for showing me your home," I replied, equally quiet. His eyes dropped to my lips, and this time I didn't step back. Sebastian moved slowly, giving me time to retreat, but I remained still as his hand gently cupped my face. His lips were soft against mine, the kiss unhurried. My hands found their way to his chest, feeling the steady rhythm of his heart beneath my palm. When we broke apart, Sebastian's eyes were dark with emotion. "Adrian," he murmured, tracing the tear mole at the corner of my eye with his thumb. The intimacy of the gesture broke the spell. I stepped back, confused by my own response. "I should go," I said. Sebastian didn't try to stop me. "I'll see you at the engagement party, in the car home." I touched my lips, still feeling the warmth of his kiss. What had begun as deception was becoming dangerously real. The night of the engagement party, chaos erupted. It started beautifully. The Hale estate transformed with lights and flowers. Society's elite gathered to witness our formal engagement. Sebastian was resplendent in a tailored suit, his eyes never leaving me as we greeted guests. "You look stunning," he whispered when we finally had a moment alone. Before I could respond, Marcus appeared, his expression tense. "Adrian, can I speak with you, privately?" Sebastian frowned, but released my arm. "Don't be long." Marcus pulled me into a side room. "Julian's back." My heart stopped. "What? Where?" "Downstairs, he wants to talk to you." I found Julian in Father's study, looking disheveled but unharmed. He jumped up when I entered. "Adrian, thank God. We need to leave now." "Julian, what are you talking about? Where have you been?" "Hiding." His eyes were wild. "From Dominic Voss. He is after me, after us now that you're engaged to Sebastian." Dominic Voss. The name struck a chord. A business rival of our father's, rumored to have connections to organized crime. What does Voss have to do with this? Julian paced nervously. "I borrowed money from him, a lot of money. Then I found out he is Sebastian's enemy. They have history, bad history. When the engagement was announced, Voss thought I'd betrayed him for Sebastian. But you weren't even here. He doesn't know that." Julian ran a hand through his hair. "He thinks it was all a plan. Get close to him, then align with the Cross family. That is absurd. Tell that to Voss. He has threatened to kill me if I don't pay him back, with interest." I felt a headache forming. "How much do you owe him?" Julian named a sum that made me blanch. "Where am I supposed to get that kind of money?" "Your fiancé is loaded," Julian suggested. "Ask him." The door opened before I could respond. Sebastian stood there, his expression cold. "So the prodigal brother returns," he said, closing the door behind him. Julian stepped back. "Sebastian, I can explain." Sebastian's focus remained on me. "Did you know?" "Know what?" I asked. "That he was back, that he was hiding from Voss." "I just found out," I replied honestly. "How do you know about Voss?" Sebastian's jaw tightened. "Because Voss has been trying to undermine my operations for years. Your brother's debt gives him the perfect leverage." Julian looked between us. "Look, I'm sorry I've dragged you both into this, but nothing." Sebastian cut him off. "You've put Adrian in danger." "I didn't know Voss was your enemy," Julian protested. "You didn't bother to find out," Sebastian countered. "And now Adrian is a target." The realization chilled me. "What do you mean, a target?" Sebastian's expression softened as he turned to me. "Voss knows about our engagement. He'll use you to get to me." "So what do we do?" I asked. "We continue as planned," Sebastian said firmly, "but with additional security measures." Julian shook his head. "That is insane. Adrian should walk away from this whole mess." "And what about our family?" I asked him. "The alliance with the Cross family is keeping us afloat." "Forget the alliance," Julian exclaimed. "This is your life we're talking about." Sebastian stepped closer to me. I can protect you, Adrian. Trust me. The sincerity in his eyes was unmistakable. Despite everything, I found I did trust him. Okay, I said finally. We continue. Julian threw up his hands. You're both crazy. And you're leaving, Sebastian stated. Tonight, my security team will escort you somewhere safe until this is resolved. You can't order me around, Julian protested. Either you go willingly, or I'll have you detained for your own protection, Sebastian replied evenly. Your choice. Julian looked to me for support, but I shook my head. He is right, Julian. You need to disappear for a while. My brother's shoulders slumped in defeat. Fine. After Sebastian made the necessary arrangements, we returned to the party. No one had noticed our absence, the celebration continuing in full swing. Are you all right? Sebastian asked quietly as we circulated among the guests. I'm processing, I admitted. It is a lot to take in. His hand found mine, squeezing gently. We'll get through this. Something in his certainty steadied me. When it came time for the formal announcement, I stood beside Sebastian, with new resolve. The evening ended without incident, but as we said goodnight, Sebastian's expression was troubled. What is it? I asked. I don't like leaving you here, he admitted, even with the security I've posted. I'll be fine, I assured him. The engagement is official now. Voss would be a fool to move against us so openly. Sebastian's smile was grim. Voss is many things, but cautious isn't one of them. His words proved prophetic. 3 days later, I was abducted in broad daylight. I awoke in darkness, head pounding, wrists bound behind me. The last thing I remembered was walking to my car after a lecture, then a sharp pain at the base of my skull. Finally awake, Mr. Hale, a voice drawled. A light flicked on, momentarily blinding me. As my vision adjusted, I made out a man seated across from me. Elegant, middle-aged, with cold eyes that assessed me clinically. Dominic Voss, I presume, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. He smiled, pleased. Your reputation for intelligence is well deserved. Unlike your brother, what do you want? Originally, the money Julian owes me. Voss crossed his legs casually. But now I have something far more valuable. Sebastian crosses fiancé. Sebastian won't negotiate with you, I bluffed. Voss laughed. Oh, I think he will, especially when I send him pieces of you. Fear clawed at my throat, but I forced it down. You clearly don't know Sebastian. He doesn't respond well to threats. We'll see. Voss stood, adjusting his cuffs. I've sent our location to his phone. Now we wait. For what? For Sebastian to make a choice. Voss's smile was cruel. You or his precious military contract that I'm also bidding on. He left me alone in the room, though I knew guards remained outside. I tested my restraints, finding them secure, but not painfully tight. The room was bare, except for the chair I sat on and the one Voss had occupied. Time passed, minutes or hours. I couldn't tell. My thoughts kept returning to Sebastian. Would he come? Should I want him to? The rational part of me hoped he'd prioritize his safety, his career. But another part, the part that had grown increasingly attached to him, longed for rescue. A distant commotion broke the silence, shouting followed by what sounded like gunfire. My heart raced. Had Sebastian come after all? The door burst open. Not Sebastian, but Voss, his composure shattered. Your fiancé is more resourceful than I anticipated, he snarled, yanking me to my feet. He dragged me through a corridor and up a flight of stairs. We emerged onto what appeared to be a rooftop, the night air cool against my face. Stop right there, Voss. Sebastian stood across the rooftop, a gun trained steadily on Voss. He looked different, harder, more dangerous than I'd ever seen him. Voss pulled me against him, using me as a shield. One step closer, and your fiancé dies. You're surrounded, Sebastian replied calmly. There is no way out. There is always a way out, Voss countered, backing toward the edge of the roof. Drop your weapon, or I'll take him with me over the side. I met Sebastian's eyes, saw the calculation there, and the fear, carefully controlled, but unmistakable. Sebastian, don't. I began. Voss tightened his grip, cutting off my words. The gun, cross now. Sebastian slowly lowered his weapon. Let him go, Voss. This is between us. It became about him the moment you chose him, Voss spat. You took everything from me, my military contracts, my reputation. Now I'll take what matters to you. In that moment, I understood that this had never been about Julian's debt. This was personal, a vendetta against Sebastian that I'd been dragged into. As Voss's attention fixed on Sebastian, I made my decision. With all my strength, I drove my elbow into his solar plexus. Voss gasped, his grip loosening just enough for me to break free. I stumbled forward as a shot rang out. Pain exploded in my shoulder. I fell, dimly aware of Sebastian shouting, of more gunfire. Then strong arms were around me, Sebastian's voice in my ear. Adrian, stay with me, please. I wanted to reassure him, but darkness was closing in. The last thing I saw was Sebastian's face, his expression raw with emotion. I love you, I thought I heard him say before. Consciousness slipped away. I woke in a hospital room, sunlight streaming through the windows. Sebastian sat beside the bed, his head bowed, fingers intertwined with mine. Sebastian, I whispered. His head jerked up, relief flooding his features. Adrian, Voss, in custody. Sebastian's voice was rough. He won't trouble us again. I tried to sit up, wincing as pain lanced through my shoulder. Easy, Sebastian cautioned. The bullet missed anything vital. But you lost a lot of blood. How long have I been here? 2 days. His thumb traced circles on my palm. 2 very long days. I studied his face, the dark circles under his eyes, the stubble on his jaw. You stayed the whole time. Of course I did. Sebastian's gaze was intense. I almost lost you. I heard what you said, I admitted, on the rooftop. Sebastian didn't pretend to misunderstand. I meant it. Why me? I asked, the question that had haunted me from the beginning. All those years ago, why did you choose me? Sebastian was quiet for a moment. Because you saw me, not the crosshair, not the military prodigy, just me. He reached out, his fingers tracing the tear mole at the corner of my eye. I never forgot the boy who sat with me for hours, who didn't demand conversation or performance, who simply accepted my silence as enough. The tenderness in his touch undid me. I thought it was Julian you wanted. Never, Sebastian said firmly. It was always you, Adrian, only you. I believed him. In that moment, all the doubts and fears that had shadowed our relationship dissolved. I love you too, I whispered. Sebastian's smile was radiant. He leaned forward, pressing his lips to mine in a kiss that promised everything. 3 months later, we returned to the café where we first met as fiancés. Sebastian ordered black coffee. I ordered something sweet, happy. He asked, watching me over the rim of his cup. I reached across the table, taking his hand in mine. Very. No longer a substitute, no longer a pawn in someone else's game. With Sebastian, I had found my place, not as Julian's replacement, but as myself. Adrian Hale, entirely and completely. Sebastian lifted my hand, pressing a kiss to the wedding band that now encircled my finger. Good, he said, because I plan to keep you happy for a very long time. And I believed him.